Welcome to the France 24 interview. I'm Philip Crowther in Washington, D.C. We're at the State Department, which reacted recently, only in September, to the upheaval in the Arab world by creating a new office, the Office for Middle East Transitions. At its head is Ambassador William Taylor. He is the U.S. Special Coordinator for Middle East Transitions, and he's our guest on the France 24 interview today. Ambassador Taylor, thank you very much for speaking to us.
Thank you very much.
Let me start with the job description, first of all. What were you told at the time, only a very short while ago in September, by Secretary of State Hillary Clinton? What does she want from you here?
She wants me to ensure that our support, that the United States government support for these transitions in the Middle East succeeds. And in order to succeed, it needs to be coordinated. It needs to be focused on the three countries that she's given me responsibility for supporting. That's Egypt, Libya, and Tunisia. She wants someone whose focus is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, on how to make those transitions succeed. Now, we're not in the driver's seat. The Tunisians and Libyans and the Egyptians will make this happen, but she wants to be sure, and she told me on my second day on the job, that my focus is coordinating all of the assistance that the United States can focus on these areas for their success.
How do you do that concretely? Presumably with money. There isn't all that much money flying around here at the moment. Is there a second option here? How do you actually influence things in those three countries?
It's a very good question. There's not as much money. I also had something to do with helping the transitions in Central and Eastern Europe and in the former Soviet Union, where we had a lot of money. That time was a different time. Now it is different, and while we don't have anywhere near the kind of money that we were able to focus on those transitions, we do have some. So it's not enormous, but it's not inconsequential either. We're talking about $135 million that we are focusing right now, actually in last year's money, so money that is available right now for these three and the region. So that's number one. So we do bring some resources, and with those resources we can do humanitarian assistance, we can provide advisors, we can help with election campaigns.
But you are saying you're concentrating on only those three countries at the moment, Tunisia, Libya and Egypt. But where do you decide which country is in a transition right now, or where a transition might be coming up? Wouldn't you want to be involved in Syria right now already?
We would love to be involved in Syria right now already if the dictator were gone. So we would love to have him gone, and we'd like then to have the interim government or the opposition in Syria that we could then work with to provide the kind of support. Again, probably starting with humanitarian. There are going to be some humanitarian demands, but then there are organizational issues that if the Syrian opposition were to ask us for some help or some support, some ideas, some coordination of other donors with the UN, then we would be happy to do that. So in answer, yeah, we would love it because we would like to see him gone.
There is contact right now from the Obama administration with opposition groups in Syria that we do know right now. Wouldn't you want to get involved there straight away as well now?
That's not what I'm doing in terms of my immediate responsibilities. In fact, my responsibilities on Syria don't include any funds and any operations. What they do include is thinking. We're thinking about if that were to happen, if the dictator were to be overthrown, leave, decide, whatever, and if the Syrians then were eager to move forward on a democratic transition, what would we do? And so we're giving some thought to that. We're also giving some thought to what happens in Yemen.
But are you possibly, in the case of Yemen, are you possibly speculating already? We heard recently in an interview with France 24, in fact, President Ali Abdullah Saleh said he would be gone inside 90 days. Is that something where that you listen to and you say, okay, we might be able to get in there in 90 days' time?
Sure, absolutely. We listen very carefully because we want to be ready. We have to identify resources again. This is hard to do. We hadn't planned to do a whole support for a democratic transition in Yemen or in Syria. That will take effort, take resources, take planning. So we want to be thinking about it, but it is not our intent or even guidance at this point. It's not our policy yet to be talking about transitions. This is up to the to the Yemenis. It's up to the Syrians at this point, not up to us.
Well, let's look at one of those countries that you are already involved in and that you will be visiting very soon, Libya. That is a transition that simply looks very difficult right now. There are quite simply a lot of guns on the street, and what you want to see is a peaceful transition. Do you really believe that is something that can happen soon?
Yes. I believe that we can have an influence, an effect. We can help the new Libyan government. We have a prime minister now, of course, and he's looking at establishing a new cabinet. It has frozen assets around the world, tens, maybe even $100 billion worth of frozen assets that are going to gradually thaw and funnel into. So resources is not going to be the problem in Libya. Plus, of course, they have their oil and gas production that is accelerating and coming back on stream much faster than people thought. So resources in Libya are not going to be the problem. What's going to be the problem, one of the problems that you already mentioned is guns on the street, but also shoulder-fired weapons against aircraft, also chemical weapons that are in storage that need to be...
Is there a fear that the weapons that you do describe there, that they might be used for terrorism? I mean, is there an element of let's secure the United States here first in your job?
Well, the United States and the rest of the world. I mean, if there are terrorists out there with shoulder-fired anti-aircraft weapons, anyone who flies in an airplane in any nationality airline has to be worried. So that is one of our top interests, and not just ours, the international community's top interest in identifying, seeking them out, securing those kind of weapons. Same thing on the chemical weapons as well. So that is clearly in our interest, and it's something that we know how to do, and it's something that the Libyans have asked for.
Now, the kind of transition that you'd like to see, presumably in all three countries that you've seen, and one of them in Tunisia, is elections. Both in Libya and in Egypt, you would be financing all parties, and within those parties are some that you simply don't like, that the United States does not like. That is a problem for you. You might well end up helping a party get to power that is a danger to the United States.
There are some red lines that we have about who we engage with. If a party is a danger to the United States, as you say, that is, if it espouses violence, we don't deal with them. However, there are parties who don't espouse violence that do disagree with us on foreign policy issues, on domestic policy issues, on social policy issues.
We're talking about Islamist parties here.
We're talking about Islamist parties here, exactly. They will disagree with us. They'll be peaceful, and they'll be committed. They have no record of violence, but they will disagree with us on some of these very important issues for us, on the role of women, on minority rights, on the whole religion government question. We'll have disagreements with them, but our view is that we can talk, that we can have conversation with them. Our view further is, I want to be clear about what we do with political parties. We don't support any particular political party. In Egypt, in Tunisia, and anywhere. What we do is we provide training to political parties and emerging political parties on how to do things, how to prepare for election campaigns. And we do this on a nonpartisan basis. That is, we will invite all of the political parties in a city or in a town where we're doing the training to come. Sometimes, but frankly not often, Islamist parties will come to those trainings. And if they do, fine. You know, if they want to learn how to use polling, if they want to learn how to do constituent services, if they want to learn how to prepare for elections, that's fine.
That is something, though, that the American taxpayer will not like, that American money is going towards helping all parties maybe, but parties involved in that are Islamist parties. The US taxpayer won't like that.
I think there is a maturity of the American taxpayer that recognizes that we are dealing with a range of parties in these two countries in particular, but around the world more broadly, that we ought to be engaging with. That is, we can't let ourselves be scared off by a label. What we need to do is evaluate, and I think the American people understand this, I think our Congress is understanding this, that is, we need to identify and observe and be attentive to what these parties do. You mentioned Tunisia. Tunisia had an election. The Islamist parties did very well. One of them, Ennahda, won about 41% of the seats in this Constituent Assembly. It is going to write the Constitution. It was a free and fair election, and we want to deal with the Tunisian government. That means we're going to be dealing with Ennahda. That means we're going to be dealing with an Islamist party. That's okay. That's okay. As long as no violence, we want to talk to them about the importance, the value